Welcome back to the Pioneers Sideline. I told you Tim was coming back. We're talking a little bit more softball here in that road ahead. But Tim, let's go back a little bit real fast. We talked a little bit about how the softball team really needs to just get their hitting and pitching just be one consistent unit.
Yeah, I had to agree there, Chris. When it comes to the hitting and the pitching level, it seems that Point Park sometimes is very hot, but sometimes can get very on a low stretch. And if for Point Park softball team to be able to be consistent throughout the league, they need to make sure they keep that consistent.
Now, the Pioneers are starting to hit a little bit of a stretch there. They lost their last game, but still, they had a pretty good trip down there in Kentucky, Tim. Going there over Easter weekend and finding a way to win 3 out of 4. You know what? That's not too bad in the long run.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. But it was against Alice Lloyd, 2 of them wins out of there. A team that hasn't been really that consistent throughout for the past few years. So Point Park can still show that same kind of consistent runs they did against them. They'll do fine through the season.
Now let's take a look here at the road ahead, Tim. The Pioneers, they have a little bit of a tough stretch ahead of themselves now, but they finally get to have some road games. As we take a look at the road ahead here for the Pioneers, they're going to be at home against Pitt Greensburg, but then go on the road to Asbury and Midway. But they come home for Carlo and former conference rival Notre Dame of Ohio. Tim, how big is it for the Pioneers to finally get some home games? They have really not had any chance to play at home due to the weather problems. And now they can finally get to use that Lind Field home field advantage out there in Kennedy Township.
Yeah, that's going to be big for Point Park. Being able to play throughout the home for mostly half of the season going through it, it's going to come big for Point Park on their home field. You know, home field advantage brings a lot of things, so let's see what the season brings.
But the one good thing about them playing on the road and having a winning record so far is they're a battle-tested team, Tim. They really know how to go on the road, and that's going to come up big as AMC playoff time. I mean, the season feels like it just started, but at the end of the month, it's already the conference tournament.
Yeah, it's already surprising that it's even getting there yet. But just being able to see Point Park even showing that they can be that consistent on the road, imagine what they could do at home. Hopefully they could do as well.
And what's really big, the one game the Pioneers are really going to have circled, home versus Carlo. That's the team that knocked them out of the AMC playoffs last year in the championship game. And they get them at home first, Tim. How big is it for the Pioneers to get a big crosstown rival at home at the beginning or midway through the season?
It shows what they can bring and just being able to find out what your rival really is about. If they could be able to find ways to beat them there at home, which is going to be big for them, a home away from home, that's going to be coming big for Point Park.
Now, Tim, that's 5 scheduled games right there, which are all doubleheaders. So that's 10 games there. Give me a quick prediction. How do you think the Pioneers are going to do there? Do they go at least? I'm thinking 5-5 at the minimum. 7-3 is probably more realistic. But what do you think is really going to happen there with the Pioneers?
Well, by seeing what they've been doing for the past couple of weekends and then able to see how inconsistent they can become, I'll go with 6-4. That's my least pick, if anything, because they've been able to show real consistent on batting averages and being able to have the pitching they did. If they can still roll like that, they can end up coming out here with a big win.
All right, thanks, Tim. Now we're going to take it to the baseball side. Bring in Phil Novotzik. We're going to keep him here. Let's go into the baseball here. Phil, the Pioneers, we've kind of talked about them a little bit. The pitching, it's getting a little risque there, but the hitting is just tearing it up. And just, I mean, the way they're playing, it's just, who's going to slow down this hitting?
Yeah, I mean, that's the bottom line. If they keep hitting the way they are, I don't see anybody beating the Pioneers anytime soon. And what we talked about a lot earlier in the season is that their schedule isn't the toughest now that they are hitting that April schedule. They get a lot of games at home. I think a lot of their early struggles were due to all those road games. I think it's going to be a lot easier for them now. They just had that 10-minute drive up to their home field. And that might be where we see the pitching finally come back once they get back on that familiar mound.
Now let's take a look at the road ahead here for the baseball team. And you're going to see there a lot of verses, not away and ats for this Pioneer team. And that's going to be big, Phil, because now they get to use the home field of Green Tree Park. That's real big for them as we take a look at the road ahead here for the Pioneers. Home to Penn State Beaver, home to Brescia. That's a 4-game series this coming weekend. Home to Clarion, home to Penn State Greater Allegheny. Phil, that's 10 games the Pioneers get at home.
Oh, and that's huge. I mean, the way they started off this season, playing over 20 games on the road, they've had games rained out on their home field. Finally getting 10 straight games at their home park up there in Green Tree, that's big for them, especially for that big conference series against Brescia. Those are 2 days that they definitely have circled on their schedule.
Especially because they finish up fairly almost around the 20th of March before they go into the KIAC tournament there. So basically, they are playing home games from here on out most of for the rest of April. And the away games aren't really too far. They're not really much more in the conference traveling the 6, 7, 8 hours. They have to make those teams come here. And Phil, how big is that for the Pioneers to make those teams travel 6, 7, 8 hours instead of the Pioneers? The Pioneers are that, like you said, 10-minute drive.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line is nobody likes those drives. I mean, I've been on 6-hour drives before playing a baseball game. It's almost impossible to get completely loosened up before the game starts. And when you have to go there, play 2 games, it's just mentally and physically grueling. And now the Pioneers get a chance to stay at home where they're comfortable and make these other teams come here and play. I mean, I got the Pioneers getting a long winning streak going here.
Yeah, because you take a look at some of those opponents, Penn State Beaver, Penn State Gray Allegheny, teams that, quite frankly, the Pioneers have just had their number over the last couple of years. The big one is going to be the Brescia series because that's 4 games all in conference. Phil, what do the Pioneers really need to do to come away with almost, you really want to hope that they do go 4-0, but to at least go 3-1 at home would be a big accomplishment. What do they need to do?
Well, the biggest thing is that right now, Brescia also knows how hot Point Park is. So they need to use that to their advantage. They need to get out to quick leads against Brescia and put them away early, because as soon as they get out to a big lead, Brescia is going to bend over and just give up, because honestly, if you get up on that team, they never fight back.
Yeah, the Pioneers, they're going to really need to just keep it going. That's going to finish it here for the road ahead. Finish it up for softball and baseball, but don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with the Courthouse Case of the Week, talking about who's going to win the national title for basketball. Don't go anywhere. It's the Pioneer Sideline.